What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another edition of The Drive-In, where I see a movie that is recently released in theaters, and I tell you guys whether you should go out and see it, wait for it on demand, or skip it altogether. In today's recent release on The Drive-In, I want to talk to you guys about something that is close to my heart, 2019's remake of The Lion King. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, this might get a little rough. I am very partial to the 90s cartoon Lion King. It is not only my all-time favorite Disney movie, but it is in my top 5 favorite films of all time in any genre. It is probably the highest ranking non-horror film of all time for me. I love The Lion King. I've watched it on VHS clamshell tapes more than any other Disney film in the history of the world. And so, in spite of being nervous, I went to the theaters to go see this on opening night last Friday. And due to some phone issues and some medical issues, I'm getting this out 6 days late. But I saw a couple of the other releases that came out, like Beauty and the Beast. And I have not been a fan of these live-action remakes, to be honest. There are things visually about them that are beautiful, but the storytelling and the authenticity and just that childlike innocence seems lost. So with this review, again, being so partial to the original and having it be such a big part of my formative childhood years, I was going to come in a little biased. This was going to be a bit of a lose-lose, but for completionist sake and for generational sake, I had to see this movie in theaters to make this worth it. Now, one other caveat I'll provide is that I saw this in a theater where the surround sound wasn't very good. This particular theater that I saw it in was not my usual theater, and the sound wasn't super high, so maybe it was intended to be watched a little bit louder to get the all-encompassing musical numbers and all the crew together to kind of fire you up a little more and put you more in the mood. So maybe the lack of super surround sound might have made this a bit of a more harsh watch for me. That might have been a little better had I watched it at my usual theater, so I will give you guys that caveat. Spoiler-free, I imagine most of you guys have seen the original version. There's not a ton different about this version, storytelling-wise, but I will give you guys spoiler-free thoughts first, and then at the end I will give the spoiler review for those of you guys that have seen it and want to hear my spoiler thoughts. The story, obviously, is about a young cub. It's in the trailer and stuff. You guys know this story. Simba, this young cub who is bracing himself to take the throne and become the Lion King after his dad, but then of course his dad, spoiler, passes away, gets killed, and it is Simba's journey of trying to run and hide what he thinks is the murder he committed, and then Simba's evil uncle kind of taking over the Pride Lands and making it a different place to live. So it is a young cub's journey into kingdomhood and becoming the king, but also dealing with the death of his father and the harsh family secret that it keeps. Really good coming-of-age story. Obviously, it's a classic. But how did this 2019 version do? Let me tell you. This is about an hour and 59 minutes, so a 2-hour movie. I think a little was added from the cartoon version. Directed by Jon Favreau, who is very well known for all the Marvel things. He's got 30 Marvel credits to his name. You guys know Jon Favreau. Written by Jeff Nathanson, who's been involved in Indiana Jones movies, many others. Rush Hour, I believe he was involved in writing. He has a whole list of credits as well. This was starring Donald Glover, the returning James Earl Jones, who once again voiced Simba like he did in the original, Beyonce Knowles, Seth Rogen, and about 60 other people. So let's start with the positives in the story first. Positives, first of all, cinematography was very good. As you would expect of a live-action Animal Kingdom-style movie, I thought this was shot beautifully. I thought the camera did some nice movements. I thought the locations and places they used to cover were well done. I don't know exactly what all was computer graphics and what all was live action, so kudos to them for making the CGI not too blatantly gross. There was a few moments when the CGI got in the way, but it wasn't too distracting for me. I usually hate CGI. Practicality is the way to go. But the camera movements were beautiful. The fast tracking stuff where the lion-hyena chase scenes was done well. It was jarring in a positive way. And also several shots. I can't recall too many offhand now. It's been a week. But shots where Scar's face pops up behind Simba, shots where Mufasa is over the ocean looking at Simba. There's several depth of field shots where you see one character interacting with another or something happening in the background that is beautifully framed, and the camera just pulls right up into some really telling shots that are good character moments. I really enjoyed not only how this was shot, but some of the shot choices they used. So cinematography is a big positive for me. Also, color grading was really well done. The ending is a little bleak, as it's kind of supposed to be during a fire and rainstorm. So the colors kind of dissipated as the movie went down. But early on, especially for the first half of the movie, the coloring was beautiful. The color grading was well done. The editing was done pretty well there. So props to the tech team for making it look very, very nice. Let's see. Voice-wise, standouts, I really enjoyed the kids. I liked Child Nala, who was actually also the girl who voiced Nala in the Broadway production. And I also enjoyed Child Simba's voice a lot. And for the adults, the one standout for me was Timon. I thought Timon was excellent. I didn't get to write his name down, but I thought his voice was phenomenal in this. Really enjoyed that. The times they took some chances. When they added a few things, it was well done. I liked Timon and Pumbaa being extra silly. They added a lot of extra dialogue. Some might have been improv, some might have been scripted. I enjoyed Timon and Pumbaa going back and forth with fast-paced banter and kind of silly, witty, back-and-forth stuff. Really enjoyed their comic relief there. Also, the hyenas. They changed 2 of the names, and then they had the one main character return. But they did really good stuff with the former Ed character, the bumbling, silly one. They did a lot of funny improv and funny additions with the hyenas. The staunch difference in the leader of the pack and kind of the evil one versus the bumbling ones, especially the former Ed character, was really good. When they added stuff to him and let him take chances, they knocked that out of the park. I really appreciated that additional dialogue being added. Some of the other stuff, though, well, I guess we'll get to the negatives in a second, because that's all the positives that I can really think of here. Getting to the negatives now in this story. Number 1, inflection. I don't know, some of the ADR stuff, a couple of the lines were a little low. They didn't seem to take a lot of time on the dialogue. James Earl Jones returned as Simba. He was excellent with his voice. You could tell that he knew the source material, obviously, and he's phenomenal. For some of these other actors who are very skilled, they didn't deliver a lot of emotion and drama to their lines. My friend who I saw this with, who is not really a movie buff considerably, mentioned this before I did. A lot of the big dialogue and big lines didn't seem emotional. So some of the lines were delivered just kind of very monotone. I didn't like Scar's character's voice. The voice acting of Scar didn't seem menacing enough. Adult Simba just seemed very aloof. Adult Nala didn't really have a lot going for her. I know these are famous actors. I know it's Donald Glover and Beyonce, and they're tremendous and talented, but they didn't bring the drama and the emotion that I expected from the first one. I guess trying to make it more adult and grow it from being a cartoon, they lost some of the magic, I thought. But again, that's just me being an adult watching back from a childhood favorite of mine. But they lost a lot of the drama and the emotion and the excitement and some of the confrontation that they had in the originals. Also, pacing. Some of the big reveal stuff didn't feel that big. When Simba runs away, it didn't feel that dramatic. Even when Mufasa dies, it seemed a little bit rushed. They didn't let it linger long enough. When Nala finds Mufasa and reunites with him and realizes that he's alive, they do this reveal in like 2 seconds. There's no build-up. They don't stare at each other. They don't give any big inflective voices. They don't take time to digest it. They just jump right into it. So a lot of the big moments seem very quick. They don't let things marinate. The one time things did marinate was the big 20-minute chase and fight scene at the end. That was well done because they gave it time to develop and build tension. They didn't build any tension for these reveals up until that point. So the first 2/3 of the movie was not paced very well, and they didn't give you time to soak in these reveals. Also, as far as scene stuff, they cut some really important things in this. They cut out Rafiki doing the Asante Sana, squash banana, where he had the stick and he hit Simba in the head. The whole lesson is the past can hurt, but you can either learn from it or run from it. That's my favorite line in the original Lion King, and that line and that whole speech was cut from Rafiki for some reason. And they didn't take the time for Simba to slowly kind of follow Rafiki and Rafiki to reveal himself for who he is. They didn't reveal that in this movie. What else? They cut a couple. They cut Nala explaining to Timon and Pumbaa what was happening, all the exposition and backstory, where they can get on board. Instead, they just cut to Timon and Pumbaa just kind of showing up out of nowhere to help Simba. They didn't explain any of that, so they cut that important scene out. In its place, they had 2 or 3 scenes where animals were looking for grub. There was no real dialogue. They just had a couple animals looking for grub. So they added a couple of long scenes, including Nala escaping, which could have been shorter. Nala escaping the Pride Lands to go find help. A couple of the longer scenes could have been shorter, and some of the exposition scenes were cut in favor of scenes that didn't really have any place in the movie. So pacing and scene choices were a little off here, along with the voices, along with the emotion, and along with the reveals. So overall, I think this just lost some of the magic. As far as the songs, too, the only song I enjoyed better than the first one is the We Mama Way from Timon and Pumbaa, which they gave more time to and choreography to, which looked nice. But of all the songs, none of them were sang with the same charm and fun that they were in the original. And again, I'm biased, I'm older, I'm thinking of the original, but of all the songs that I love, like Can You Feel the Love Tonight and Can't Wait to Be King, and even Scar's song especially, just was not sang very well. Again, I know that Beyonce's got an amazing voice. I know this entire cast was well cast because of their voices, but their voices, in spite of how great and talented they are, did not fit these particular characters. This was miscast, in my opinion, big time. Not only was the voice inflection off, not only were the reveals off, but the songs were off. They just didn't feel like the same melodic, fun tunes that I grew up with. Instead, they were kind of just a little flat for me. I didn't enjoy a lot of the songs. They took runs and they took important notes and kind of just made them flat. The songs just didn't pop off the page for me. And maybe they would have had I not seen the original, and maybe they would have had I been